Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
In the previous problem, we had seen a very typical case of assigning your resources for buying three different types of vehicles. The problem was very complicated. Now we are doing a problem based on advertisement or the media based problem. Okay, let's see the problem. So let's read the problem now, friends. Owner of a Metro Sports wishes to determine how many advertisements to be placed in the selected three monthly magazines A, B, and C. So we have got three magazines A, B, and C, and his objective is to advertise in such a way that total exposure to principal buyers of expensive sports goods is maximized. So since it is a sports agency or a Metro sports shop, they will like to maximize their overall exposure to the people who are going to buy the sports goods. So their objective is to advertise in such a way that the total exposure to principal buyers is maximized. Now what do you mean by total exposure? They have specified it somewhere else in the next two lines. Exposure in any particular magazine is the number of advertisements placed multiplied by the number of principal buyers. So what it indicates that if the people will watch the advertisement, there is no compulsion that they are going to buy. By just watching the advertisement doesn't mean that you are going to buy the product. So to find out the effectiveness of the advertisement, they are calculating here something called as exposure. Now this exposure means the number of advertisements multiplied by the number of people who actually buy the product by looking at the advertisement. That means how much of your audience is converted into your potential customer can be called as the exposure. कि आपके कितना ऑडियंस वो एडवर्टाइजमेंट देखकर या पढ़कर एक्चुअल में प्रोडक्ट बाय करता है, उसे कहा गया है एक्सपोजर. And any advertisement manager or any advertisement agency will always like to maximize the exposure because the effectiveness of the advertisement depends upon to what extent the people are compelled, they are convinced, or they are persuaded to buy the product. And therefore in this problem our objective will be to maximize the exposure. How to calculate the exposure? They are specified very clearly in the problem. Exposure is number of units or number of advertisements placed multiplied by the number of people who are going to buy the product by watching that advertisement. So let's proceed further. We have got the three magazines A, B, and C. We have got the readers here. Readers are the people who read the magazines, and because they read the magazines, they will also read our advertisements placed in these magazines. And if 1 lakh people in magazine A read your magazine, the actual buyer for the magazine will be only how many percentage? 10%. That means अगर 1 लाख लोगों ने मैगजीन ए पढ़ा तो इसमें से 10%, 1 lakh का 10% comes to how much? 10,000. 10,000 people are going to actually buy the sports goods. Similarly, for product B and C, the readers are different and the principal buyers are 15% and 7%. And we are also given the cost of advertisement. It is cost per advertisement. So to give one advertisement in magazine A, you are going to spend 5,000. To give one advertisement in magazine C, you are spending less, 4250. And for giving one advertisement in magazine B, you are spending near about 4,500 rupees. Budgeted amount is at the most 1 lakh for the advertisement. Means the total budget allocated for making this advertisement is maximum rupees 1 lakh. The owner has already decided that magazine A should not have more than 6 advertisements. आप मैगजीन ए में 6 से ज्यादा एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स नहीं दोगे, ये ओनर ने खुद ने डिक्लेयर कर दिया. At the same time, that B and C each have at least 2 advertisements. So B and C में कम से कम 2 एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स होगा और A में 6 से ज्यादा एडवर्टाइजमेंट हम लोग प्लेस नहीं करेंगे. So this is a linear programming problem where you have to decide how many advertisements you should place in which particular magazine. Okay, so let's try to formulate this into a full-fledged problem and solve it. We'll directly solve without drawing any table because the table is already given in the problem. We'll first note down the assumptions. Our assumptions will be that we are making X1 or we are placing X1 advertisements in magazine A, X2 advertisements in magazine B, and X3 advertisements in magazine C. Let's first note down the assumption. Let X1 advertisements are placed in magazine A, X2 advertisements in magazine B, and X3 advertisement in magazine C. These are our basic assumption. Now I will note down the objective function. What shall be my objective function? As you read the problem, you observe that we are clearly told in the problem in the second line that is objective of the owner of the metro sport is to advertise in such a way that the total exposure to buyers is maximized. So they are targeting their own target customers by looking only at the people who are actually buying their products rather than targeting each and every particular consumer or the customer. Let's first write the objective function. Now, how much shall be my exposure? We need to maximize the exposure. We know clearly very well what do you mean by exposure. They have clearly specified exposure is nothing but exposure in any magazine is the number of advertisements placed multiplied by number of principal buyers. So we need to calculate the number of principal buyers for all the 3 magazines. So here is my magazine A, B and C, and here we have the principal buyers. In case of magazine A, there are 1 lakh readers and 10% people buy the magazine after watching the advertisement. So it will be 1 lakh multiplied by 10%, which will be 10,000. In case of magazine B, my readers are 0.6 lakhs, which is 60,000 multiplied by 15%. 60,000 multiplied by 15%, that comes to 9,000. And for magazine C, it will be 0.4 lakhs, that is 40,000 into 7%. Which comes to 2,800. So these are my principal buyers, and for exposure you need to multiply number of advertisements by number of buyers. So I'll simply multiply my number of advertisement X1 into number of buyers, that is 10,000. So it will be maximize profit Z equals to, my profit for magazine A is 10,000 multiplied by X1. My exposure for magazine B is 9,000 into x2 plus my exposure for magazine C is 2800 into x3. So this is my objective function, is to maximize the profit. But then we have got certain constraints subject to, can be written as ST in short. What are my first constraint? My cost constraint. My total cost or the total budget amount is 1 lakh rupees for advertisement. So write 50,000 into x1 plus 4,500 into x2 plus 4250 into x3, and this total cost that I'm going to incur, my budget is rupees 1 lakh. So my total amount for buying or for spending on all the three advertisement media M1, M2 and M3 will not be more than 1 lakh. It will be less than equal to 1 lakh. In the first case it should be 5,000, not 50,000. This is my cost constraint or the budget constraint. The second thing we have in this problem is the buyers, the number of readers. And the third thing, they have clearly specified that the owner wants not more than 6 advertisements in magazine. Magazine A में आपको 6 से ज़्यादा ads नहीं चाहिए. Magazine A में आपने place किया है X1 advertisements, तो आपका X1 6 से ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. Means X1 can be less than or equal to 6. And they also specified that the owner wants B and C में he wants to have at least 2 advertisements each. So in case of B that is X2, in case of C that is X3, the minimum advertisements required are 2. So it should be more than or equal to 2. More than or equal to 2. So we have observed that the owner had his own constraints regarding the number of advertisements to be placed. We had a cost constraint of rupees 1 lakh. And finally, to complete the problem, we can note down the non-negativity constraint, which shall be x1 more than equals to 0, x2 more than equals to 0, and x3 more than equals to 0. So this was a problem based on media planning, how to put your advertisement in 3 different medias or 3 different magazines A, B and C. Thanks for watching this video. Keep subscribing to our channel Ekeeda.